After 6 years of marriage, Ellie and I were about to see our plans pay off. When we first tied the knot, we made a strict savings plan. Now, we had finally saved enough for a down payment on a house, and we were excited to fill that house with kids. I'm David Wallace. I run my own business as a cybersecurity consultant, which lets me work remotely. I didn't need an office, so the flexibility was a huge perk. If anyone asked about my marriage to Ellie, I'd tell them that we loved each other deeply, we shared everything, and our intimacy was unbreakable. We had the same goals for our future and kids, and our financial situation was finally falling into place. I felt certain our future was bright. While other couples fought and got divorced, Ellie and I never seemed to hit those same bumps. We believed our love was on a whole other level. Nothing could ever break us, but delusion sneaks up on you. It starts as a subtle thought, convincing you that everything is perfect, until it turns into a belief. I had become a firm believer. Ellie worked as a regional manager for a national tech company. Her company was growing, and a new vice president had recently been brought in from their Manhattan office. Richard Jones was a young, cocky guy who acted like he knew more than everyone and loved flexing his power. That's when my confidence in our relationship started to waver. 3 months ago, when Richard came on board, Ellie became distant. She was cold, short-tempered, and unpleasant at home. She blamed work stress, but I couldn't shake the feeling there was more going on. I tried my best to be a patient, understanding husband. I brought home flowers, planned date nights at her favorite spots, and made sure to listen to her concerns. One evening, when she was upset, Ellie finally opened up. She vented about Richard being a jerk, how his presence made everyone feel nervous and stressed. I suggested she quit, but she insisted she couldn't. She had applied for a transfer to another division of the company, and the house we dreamed of needed the money. Now wasn't the right time, she said. But she was hopeful. Her experience with the company's software made her a good candidate, and the corporate office liked her. Her job required her to visit branches 3 times a month. She had been hoping the transfer would go through after a few more trips, but 6 weeks and 3 business trips later, nothing had changed. The stress at home only grew. Ellie began treating me more like a roommate than a husband. I told her how unhappy I was, but she told me to be patient. Richard had gotten kinder, she said. Perhaps the corporate office had told him to ease up. She was optimistic the transfer would happen soon, but things weren't getting better at home. While she made an effort to be kinder to me, I could tell she was still distant. Intimacy became rare. We only had sex twice a week, and even then, it felt more like pity than passion. Then, one Friday, Ellie announced she was going on a business trip to California for 2 nights with Richard Jones. She said she was going to push for her transfer while she was there. I had no idea that, at the time, the stress she was under wasn't just from work. It was because Richard was pressuring her to sleep with him. Ellie was 28 years old, 170 centimeters tall, slim, with a stunning figure and the face of an angel. Up until this point, I had no reason to worry about our marriage. But once Richard started his predatory behavior, Ellie rejected him. The humiliation wounded his ego, and it only added more stress to her life. What happened next was an act of harassment. Why Ellie didn't tell me or report it to HR, I'll never understand. When Richard's advances didn't work, he changed tactics. He began complimenting her, flirting, and promising her a bright future within the company if she played along. After several dinners and many conversations about her marriage and personal life, he convinced Ellie to consider being with him, just once. He painted a picture of what it could mean for her future. The pressure, combined with her internal conflict, led her to betray me. Apparently, the way she justified this betrayal was by blaming me, painting herself as the victim, and convincing herself it was a one-time mistake. This allowed her to hide her guilt behind the narrative of stress at work and the challenges she was facing. It had been 2 weeks since we'd had any intimacy, and despite my efforts, Ellie wasn't responding to any of my advances. I didn't beg for a night together, but I made it clear that if things didn't change soon, we would be in serious trouble. She promised things would return to normal and asked for some time to sort out her problems at work. I loved her and wanted to believe that we could get back to where we were just a few months ago. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to act. I gave her until she returned from her trip to save our marriage. Our 7th anniversary was approaching, and I kept trying to rekindle her affection before she left. But nothing worked. The day she was leaving, I came home early to surprise her. I brought a box of her favorite chocolates, hoping it would show her how much I loved her and wanted our life to get back on track. I knew she had the day off to pack, and she planned to leave for the airport at 3 p.m. I arrived home around noon, smiling, ready to surprise her and express my love. When I walked through the door, I called out to her, but to my surprise, the house was empty. I went into the bedroom and saw her luggage on the bed and her tight dress hanging on the hanger. Ellie always dressed beautifully, confident in her body and fashionable, qualities I'd always admired. I called her cell to find out where she was, but her response was cold and curt. "What do you want?" she answered sharply. Her voice was irritated, as if my call was an inconvenience. I tried to stay calm. "I just wanted to know how your day was and what you're doing." She responded quickly, "I'm going to lunch with my sister. You know I'm leaving for the airport at 3 o'clock. Is there anything else you need to know?" Her tone shocked me. I simply wished her a pleasant flight, but I didn't say goodbye or tell her I loved her, like I usually did. I wondered if she even noticed. Hurt and angry, I sat on the bed next to her neatly folded bag, trying to make sense of what was going on. The way she spoke to me and treated me was unacceptable. My anger flared as I stared at my phone, realizing I wasn't going to wait for her to come home. I decided to leave. As I stood up to go, something caught my eye, a purple object in her open suitcase. I had never snooped before, but for some reason, I reached inside and pulled out a plastic bag. Inside, I found a sheer purple nightgown, unopened, along with matching purple panties and a bra. There were also unopened stockings and a garter belt. My heart sank, remembering that she hadn't worn underwear for me in 2 years. It suddenly clicked. She packed these for someone else, most likely Richard. I began inspecting the suitcase more closely and found a box of condoms tucked into the side pocket, still sealed. Everything became painfully clear. The way she treated me, the lack of intimacy, her cold demeanor. Things had shifted since she started traveling with Richard 3 months ago. I was holding evidence of her affair. In that instant, I knew I no longer wanted to be a part of her lies or her betrayal. I went to my office, trembling with anger. I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote, "Ellie, I hope he enjoys your sexy lingerie. Now it's completely clear why you've changed over the past few months. It's obvious you don't need me anymore. Don't worry. By the time you get home, I'll be gone. You'll never see me again. I would never have married you if I knew you were cheating. But as they say, live and learn. The only good thing that came from this is that you'll never be the mother of my children. I'm glad we postponed starting a family. Maybe Richard can help you with that. David." I opened the package of lingerie and stapled my note to the delicate material. Afterward, I made sure everything went back into her suitcase as if I'd never been there. I left the house needing to clear my head. I drove to a local restaurant to be alone and eat something to calm my nerves. Later that day, I met my sister Jenny for lunch. I needed to talk to someone, call it guilt, fear, or just the need for support. I needed someone I could trust to listen. The stress of everything was driving me mad, and I knew I needed to get it off my chest before I cracked. I confessed everything to Jenny, feeling a huge sense of relief as I laid it all out. But when I looked up, I could see the anger in her eyes, as though she was staring at someone who had lost their mind. "Why are you jeopardizing your marriage over this?" she asked incredulously. "In our past conversations, you told me he was an idiot and that he's been stalking you for months. Why don't you just quit or file an intimacy harassment case?" "Jenny," I said, my voice softer, "I've gotten to know Richard a lot better these past few weeks. He's going through a rough divorce, and while he used to take his pain out on everyone, he's been really sweet to me lately. He asked me to be with him just once, and for some reason I agreed. We're going to do it on this trip, and he promised it'll never happen again. He's even promised to help me advance at work." Jenny's face twisted in disbelief. "So you're going to cheat on David, the guy you've loved since college, for a possible promotion? Do you realize he's turning you into his mistress?" "No, it's not like that," I protested, feeling defensive. "I actually feel sorry for Richard. He just needs someone right now, and David will never know. When I get back, everything will go back to normal." I was about to say more, but my phone buzzed. It was David. "Sorry, David's calling me. Let me answer this," I said quickly, though Jenny's gaze still burned into me. I answered the phone with a sigh. "Hello, what do you want, David?" "I'm going to lunch with my sister. You know I'm leaving for the airport at 3 o'clock. Is there anything else you need to know?" he asked, his voice strained. "Fine," I said, feeling irritated as I slipped my phone back into my purse. I glanced up and noticed Jenny was staring at me with disgust. "Ellie, did you just talk to your husband like that?" she asked, voice full of disbelief. "That was the rudest thing I've ever seen. What's going on with you? What are you talking about?" I shot back, feeling defensive. "I just answered the phone quickly. That's all." Jenny shook her head. "No, you didn't. You answered and said, 'What do you want? Do you know what my husband would do if I talked to him like that?' And then you ended the conversation with, 'Is there anything else you need to know? No goodbye, no I love you. No, I'll miss you.' How do you think he feels after being spoken to like that?" I froze, the weight of her words sinking in. Oh God, I didn't realize I was talking to him like that. I really said that? I asked, horrified by how I had come across. Jenny sighed deeply. "Ellie, I think this affair you're about to start is messing with your mind. It's ruining your marriage. You told me you were tired of David complaining about your marriage and that you were ignoring him. Well, it sounds to me like you're sabotaging everything and taking your guilt out on poor David. You're treating him terribly." I lowered my eyes. "Oh my God, you're right. I've been acting like a jerk, taking my frustration out on him. I need to call him back and apologize." "Do you want privacy?" Jenny asked, her voice gentle. "No," I said, my hand trembling as I reached for my phone. "I have to call him." I dialed David's number, but he didn't answer. I tried again. Nothing. He always picked up before. "He's not answering," I said, panic rising. "Maybe he's busy." Jenny's face hardened. "You better apologize and get your act together, Ellie. I don't think what you have planned with Richard is a good idea. You need to stop this nonsense before you ruin everything. You and David were so happy together. You were even planning to start a family. Think about it." I stared at my phone, torn. "I know you're right, but I don't think I can stop now. It's just one time, and I believe things will go back to normal after. Richard's going through a tough time with his divorce, and he's really depressed. He promised it would be the only time and that it would help him. He said I remind him of his wife." "Ellie, he's playing you," Jenny snapped. "You can't be this blind." "No, you're wrong. He's a nice guy at heart, I defended, my voice shaking. His wife is trying to get full custody of his kids, and she's making his life miserable. When he opened up to me, I felt his pain. A connection developed. I feel like I need to do this at least once. After everything we've been through together, I feel like I owe it to him. Have you talked to him about your own marriage? About how David treats you? Jenny asked, her voice cold. I looked down at my hands, my mind racing. After a long pause, I answered quietly, maybe I mentioned something about David's complaints, about how we haven't been intimate. Jenny's face twisted in disgust. Ellie, you're an idiot, and you better pray that David never finds out you've shared your intimate relationship with another man. I have to tell you, if David finds out about this, your marriage is done for. Don't you see how messed up everything is? How you're putting everything at risk? I understand what you're saying, I replied, my voice shaky. And you're right. That's why it will only happen once. I'll make things right when I get back from this trip. I will make it up to him. He'll never know, and it'll never happen again. I'll never talk about it because, in my mind, it'll be forgotten. I tried to convince myself, but Jenny's expression told me she wasn't buying it. You're really delusional, she said, her voice tinged with frustration. You're planning to spend a night with another man and believe that once it happens, you'll just forget about it? I'm telling you, it will change you. It will change the way you think about your husband. Nothing good will come of this. Please think again. Thank you for your concern, but I'm a grown woman, Jenny. I can handle this. It's just one night, and it will never happen again. David will never know. It's like they say, no harm, no foul. Jenny shook her head, her tone growing more urgent. Well, I hope you know what you're doing, but I want you to remember what I'm saying. You're making a big mistake. Think about this before you do something you can never fix. You'll forever be an unfaithful wife, and I hope you can live with that. I'll sort it out, Jenny. In 2 weeks, you'll see a happy David. We'll work on starting our family, I said, trying to reassure her. But my own words didn't feel as convincing as they should have. I'm sad, Ellie. I feel terrible about this because I know nothing good will come of it. As your sister, I don't want you to do this. Please cancel your trip, quit your job, and apologize to David for your recent behavior. David is my friend too, and if he ever finds out that I knew about this, he'd never speak to me again. Thank you, Jenny, I said, my voice softening. I love you, and I appreciate your concern. I'll think about what you've said, but I still need to go on this trip. I'll talk to David and apologize before I leave this afternoon. David sat at a table in our usual local restaurant, reflecting on the past few months. What had started as a perfect marriage had quickly fallen apart, and now, sitting alone, all he felt was a wave of anger and sadness. The woman he loved, the marriage they had built together, it all felt so distant now. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he wiped them quickly so no one would see his weakness. The anger he initially felt had transformed into a deep sadness and resentment. How could Ellie do this to him? What had he done to deserve this? As the humiliation of the betrayal set in, his feelings of anger flared again. The phone rang, and he saw Ellie's name flash across the screen. His hand hovered over the phone, but he refused to answer. There was nothing left to say. The time for talking had passed. He had been pushed to his limit. Ellie flew off with Richard, who had booked first-class seats for their long flight to the West Coast. He hoped the luxury would impress her, but when he noticed Ellie seemed upset, he quickly caught on. She told him that David wasn't answering her calls or texts, and she was regretting her decision. Richard, ever the manipulator, played the part of the sympathetic husband to get her back on track. He handed her a Bloody Mary and reassured her, "Ellie, calm down. It's okay. There's probably a good reason he's not answering. Maybe he's in a meeting or just busy. He'll call you back. Besides, nothing's happened. Everything is fine." As the flight continued, Richard's words worked like a charm. "When we're done with the meetings, I want you to take a few days off. Spend some time with your husband. I just wish I had a wife like you. Mine won't even let me see my kids anymore. And it hurts so much. You're a great wife, and I know things will get better for you too." Ellie, now feeling pity for Richard, took his hand to comfort him. He could see that he had her where he wanted her. He had played the suffering man to perfection, and she was now completely caught in his web. He knew that when she returned to her husband, she would remember the night with him, and it would always linger in her mind. Richard wasn't just after her for sex. He loved the power of knowing that he could take a woman from her husband and send her back, full of guilt and shame. The thought of meeting her husband after the affair, knowing that he had defiled his wife, gave him a rush like no other. When they arrived at the hotel, Ellie was a bit startled as they walked hand in hand to the front desk. She was still in shock over what was happening, but Richard's charm had worked. He had her exactly where he wanted her. As they walked away from the counter, Ellie looked at Richard with concern. "I don't have a room," she said, her voice shaking slightly. Richard smiled reassuringly. "Ellie, we've talked about this. You and I will be together on this trip, and then it'll be over. Just enjoy this one-time experience like we promised each other." "I thought you said it would only be one time," Ellie replied, uncertainty creeping into her voice. "Relax," Richard replied, his voice smooth and confident. "It's just one trip, not just one time. Until we get home, you're my girl. Pretend that you're my wife, and I promise I'll treat you like the princess you deserve to be. No one will know, and it will remain our secret forever." They checked into the room, and Ellie's heart sank as she saw the king-size bed in the center of the room. For the first time since her marriage, she was about to share a bed with another man. A wave of guilt hit her, but it was quickly replaced by an unexpected surge of excitement. As she struggled to make sense of her emotions, she stepped out onto the balcony for some fresh air, needing a moment to clear her mind. Richard, noticing her distress, followed her. He stood beside her, gazing out over the Pacific Ocean. "Isn't this relaxing?" he asked, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. "I booked this room because I knew you'd love the ocean view." Ellie nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, it's beautiful." Richard turned to her, his hand gently lifting her chin. He gazed into her eyes before kissing her softly on the lips. A few seconds later, Ellie kissed him back. What started as a gentle kiss quickly grew into something more passionate. But suddenly, Ellie pulled away, realizing what she had just done. Richard smiled, knowing he was making progress. He wasn't in a rush. He was confident that by the end of the night, she would be his completely. He stood back, his smirk never leaving his face. "That was nice," he said. "We have dinner reservations in a couple of hours. I know you want to get ready, so I'll head down to the gym for a quick workout. I'll be back in time to get ready." Ellie didn't respond. She just watched as Richard picked up his gym clothes and left the room. Once alone, she sat on the bed, feeling the weight of her choices. She wanted to talk to David. She had treated him horribly, and she needed to apologize. She loved him, and she just wanted this trip to end so that their lives could go back to normal. Her heart raced as she dialed David's number. She prayed that he would answer, that he would tell her that he loved her. But there was no answer. Her stomach dropped. He wasn't responding, and she knew it was because of their last conversation. She sent him a message, hoping it would make things better. "David, my dear, I'm so sorry for how I treated you on the phone today. I had a rough morning and took it out on you. Please forgive me. I'll make things right when I get home. I miss you so much, and I can't wait for us to start our family this weekend. Please call me. I need to hear your voice." With a deep breath, Ellie stepped into the shower, trying to wash away the guilt. As the hot water cascaded over her, she shaved her legs and washed her hair, but her thoughts kept drifting back to David. After the shower, she admired herself in the full-length mirror. She felt a spark of excitement about the new outfit she had bought for the trip. For the next 30 minutes, she carefully applied her makeup and styled her hair. She was pleased with the results, enjoying how dramatic and beautiful she looked. But soon, her thoughts turned back to David and how she would wear the same outfit for him when she got home. Richard, meanwhile, was in the middle of his treadmill run when Ellie went to her bag and pulled out a short black cocktail dress. The daring outfit, with its cutout design and plunging neckline, was one she had bought specifically for this trip. Tonight, she wanted to be bold. The short skirt would highlight her long legs, and the new high heels would complete the look. After admiring the dress for a few moments, she picked out the matching underwear. She carefully laid out everything on the bed, then slipped into sheer black tights and a new thong. She didn't need a bra tonight, so she adjusted the dress, making sure it fit perfectly over her firm, round breasts. When she stood before the full-length mirror again, she smiled with satisfaction, admiring the reflection of the woman she had become, even as her mind conflicted with the choices she had made. Ellie stared at her reflection in the mirror, feeling a mix of excitement and guilt. She couldn't help but think about how much her husband, David, would love to see her in this dress. The thought of being in his arms, of making sweet love to him when she returned home, filled her with longing. But just as she was lost in the fantasy, she glanced at her watch and realized that Richard would be back soon. She needed to get herself together. She began tidying up, returning the lingerie she had planned to wear that night to the closet, so she could change after dinner. As she picked up the Victoria's Secret package, something strange caught her eye. The package was already open. She looked closer and saw a piece of paper attached to the underwear. Her heart skipped a beat as confusion and curiosity began to take hold of her. Unwrapping the delicate items, she saw a handwritten note pinned to the expensive lingerie. Ellie's pulse quickened as she read the note, and a deep chill washed over her. Her heart stopped as reality hit her all at once. She froze, unable to move, as the full weight of her actions crashed down on her. Tears sprang to her eyes, and she collapsed to the floor, her body shaking with the force of her sobs. The guilt, the confusion, the horror. It was too much. In a panic, she grabbed her phone, desperate to fix the mess she had created. Her hands trembled as she dialed David's number, but it went straight to voicemail. Her voice, barely above a whisper, left a trembling message. "David, I received your note. Nothing happened, my dear. I've never done anything. Please forgive me. It was a stupid mistake, and I love you. Please call me back. I need to hear your voice. I'm so sorry. Nothing happened. Please believe me." She left multiple texts, pleading for his forgiveness, but no response came. Sitting in the large chair beside the bed, she rocked back and forth, lost in regret, when Richard entered the room. He immediately saw the wreck of emotions on her face, and he knew something had shifted. "What's wrong, dear?" he asked, feigning concern. Ellie looked up at him, her voice sharp. "Don't call me that. I'm not your darling. Because of you, I might have just ruined my marriage. You got me into this, and now I've lost everything." Richard glanced at the note on the bed that Ellie was pointing to, and a smug smile spread across his face. He read it quickly, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. His twisted sense of power surged as he realized he had done exactly what he wanted. He had completely deceived her husband. This wasn't the first time he had manipulated a woman like this. He had been playing this game for years, using his charm to destroy marriages and wreak havoc on lives. His own traumatic childhood had twisted him in ways that made this game feel like a sick kind of victory. For him, taking a woman and then sending her back to her husband was the ultimate form of dominance. It didn't matter if he took her. He had already won by making her think that she had betrayed her marriage. Ellie, however, wasn't interested in playing Richard's game anymore. In a fit of frustration, she took off her heels and her dress in front of him, completely ignoring his presence. Richard, expecting her to come to him, stood up eagerly, shedding his pants, thinking she would fall into his trap. But when Ellie saw him waiting, she only laughed bitterly. "You're crazy if you think I'll ever touch you again. I need to go home and fix this mess with my husband." Richard's face twisted in anger when he realized she wasn't going to do what he expected. His tone grew harsh and venomous. "Is this my fault? You're the one who agreed to this. You left your husband and chose to sleep with me. I never forced you. Look at the outfit you wore for our special night. You practically begged me for this. If you truly loved your husband, you would never have agreed to become my plaything for the weekend." Ellie stood, her fists clenched in rage. "How dare you talk to me like that? You're nothing but a despicable jerk. You've ruined my marriage, and now I have no idea how to fix it. I hate you. I hate what you've done to me." Richard's anger flared as he lashed back. "Of course it's my fault. That kiss you gave me an hour ago says everything. You loved it. You wanted more. You wanted me to ravish you, to turn your world upside down. Admit it." Ellie was stunned by his outburst, but his words twisted in her mind. Richard continued, "Just admit it. You're just like all the other women. You want to have fun on the side, and the only thing that matters is that you don't get caught. But now that you've been caught, you blame the man who seduced you. Well, princess, you got exactly what you wanted." Richard's words cut through her like a blade. "You never should have let me seduce you, take you on a cross-country trip, and agree to spend a night with me. If you truly loved your husband, you wouldn't have shared a room with me, let alone slept with me. But you must really love him, right? I can't imagine what you'd do if you didn't love that poor guy. Trust me, he'll be lucky if he finds out now, because you're an unfaithful wife who can't be trusted. I doubt he'd ever want to raise kids with someone like you." His words shattered her, and she realized with a sickening certainty that he was right. She had made this choice. No one had forced her. She had left her husband and willingly chosen to be with Richard. Her sister had warned her, and yet here she was. The weight of her remorse and guilt was unbearable. She quickly packed her things, desperate to escape, to go home and tell David how much she loved him and that nothing had happened. She needed to fix the damage, but when she called the concierge to book a return flight, she was hit with more bad news. There were no available seats that evening. She was stuck in San Diego until morning. As she tried to find another solution, the concierge, noticing her distress, offered to help her book a room for the night. Ellie handed over her credit card, hoping that at least she could rest until she could return home. But when the concierge returned with the key, Ellie's stomach dropped. "Sorry, Mrs. Wallace, your card has been declined. Do you have another one?" Ellie's heart sank as she tried another card, only to face the same result. Her panic grew as the realization hit. David had canceled their joint credit cards. She couldn't even get a room. Not wanting to return to Richard's room, Ellie decided she would rather stay up all night, waiting for the morning flight. With no other option, she swallowed her pride and called her sister. "Jenny, I'm stuck," she sobbed into the phone. "I should have listened to you, but I didn't. David found out about my trip, and he left me a note saying he's done. I'm stuck here, and he's not answering my calls. He canceled our cards, and now I can't even get a room. Can you please help me out?" I'll pay you back when I get home." Jenny's voice was sharp but concerned. "Ellie, you're supposed to be the smart one. I can't believe this. But of course I'll help you. Don't worry. I'll take care of it." An hour later, Jenny called back. "I got you a room. You'll be able to get a flight home tomorrow." "But Ellie, do you think David will forgive you?" Ellie's voice trembled as she replied, "I don't know. I left him so many messages telling him nothing happened, but he hasn't responded." "Good luck," Jenny said softly. "The fact that he knew what you were planning before you even left doesn't look good. Just keep trying to reach him and beg for forgiveness if you really want him back." Meanwhile, David was in the middle of a personal nightmare. He wasn't sure if Ellie had actually slept with Richard, but it didn't matter. She had planned to, and that was enough for him. She claimed she loved him, but she had left with another man, fully intending to betray him. He had no intention of starting a family with a woman like that, and he wasn't about to stay married to her. He turned off his phone and moved out of their apartment the next day, driving to Austin, Texas, where he began to look for new opportunities. His heart ached, but for the first time in months, he didn't feel completely lost. He changed his status to single and posted a photo on social media. A picture of a cheating couple he created using artificial intelligence, featuring Richard and Ellie holding hands. His caption read, "Ellie's new love, Richard Jones. She left me and I'm done. Divorce filed. I'll be better off." When he checked his phone, dozens of friends had commented, shocked by his revelation. Several women expressed their sadness over his loss and offered to talk. For the first time in a long while, David felt wanted. He realized his life wasn't over because of his wife's betrayal. In his search for closure, David uncovered more about Richard. Contrary to what Richard had led Ellie to believe, he wasn't going through a divorce. In fact, Richard was still very much married and had children. But his real pleasure came from preying on vulnerable women, seducing them, and turning their husbands into cuckolds. Richard enjoyed watching marriages fall apart, and he reveled in the power it gave him. Ellie was stunned when she learned the truth about Richard. Everything he had told her about his life, about his divorce, had been a lie. As she pieced the puzzle together, she realized how manipulative he had been. Furious, she made sure his wife found out about their affair and exposed the way he had been harassing women at work. Ellie knew there would be upheavals in Richard's life soon. Divorce court drama, and everything he had worked for would soon come crashing down. The day of the divorce proceedings, David was scheduled to appear in court. The judge was furious when he noticed David hadn't shown up. She turned to his lawyer, Joshua Wills, demanding to know where he was. "I don't know, Your Honor, but I'm sure he'll be here soon," Joshua replied, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. The judge called a 15-minute break, warning Joshua that if David didn't appear, he would be held in contempt of court. Joshua immediately called David, but it became clear that David had no intention of attending the hearing. He claimed he was stuck in traffic, but the judge wasn't buying it. When the break was over, the judge stood and addressed the court. "Your client has been charged with contempt of court, and I am imposing a fine of $1,000. I've reviewed the case file and have ordered 3 mandatory counseling sessions before the next court date, within 60 days. If he doesn't comply, I'll impose a 30-day jail sentence and another fine. Is that understood, Mr. Wills?" "Yes, Your Honor," Joshua replied, knowing David had to follow the judge's orders if he wanted to finalize the divorce. It was the first time Ellie had seen David since she made the regrettable decision to be with Richard. She ran up to him with outstretched arms, hoping for a moment of connection, but he pushed her away. David couldn't even look at her. She collapsed into tears, realizing the depth of the hurt she had caused. After a moment, she pulled herself together and began explaining her actions. "David, I love you. and I'm so sorry for everything. I didn't realize how far I had gone until I read your note. As soon as I understood, I came home to you. I never slept with him. Please forgive me." David, barely able to hold it together, turned to the counselor. "Doctor, just to be clear, complete honesty is required for these sessions to have any value, right?" "Yes, David, absolutely. Both of you need to speak openly for this to work," the doctor replied. David turned to Ellie, his voice cracking with emotion. "Ellie, I need you to be honest with me. You say nothing happened, and I should just understand and forgive you. But am I entitled to this? To believe that nothing happened?" Ellie's eyes filled with tears as she softly answered, "Yes, David, nothing happened. The moment I read your note, I knew what I had been doing. I came home because I realized my mistake." David's gaze hardened as he continued. "I know you, Ellie. You're not the type of woman who would get involved with another man without some connection. You don't just do that for no reason. Do you have feelings for Richard?" Ellie hesitated. She wanted to lie, but deep down, she knew she couldn't. "Yes," she whispered, "but I don't love him. I've always loved you." David looked at her with a mixture of pain and disbelief. "That's the problem, Ellie. You say you didn't love him, but you were willing to be with him. You spent personal time with him. You had lunch, drinks. Did you hold hands with him?" Ellie's breath caught in her throat, and she looked away. "Yes," she whispered, unable to lie anymore. "But I didn't love him." David's voice was barely audible as he asked, "Did you kiss him?" Passionately, Ellie looked down, tears falling down her cheeks. "Yes, just once. I swear, David. It was just one kiss." David's tears began to fall, his shoulders shaking. He had always been a strong, stoic man, but in that moment, the pain of betrayal broke through. Ellie had never seen him cry, and it hit her harder than she expected. As his tears continued to fall, he looked into her eyes and asked one last question. "Ellie, if I hadn't found that note, with the lingerie you planned to wear for Richard, would you have gone through with it that night?" Ellie's heart stopped. She didn't want to answer. She looked at him, paralyzed by guilt. The tears didn't stop, and she could feel her soul unraveling. The doctor, sensing the depth of the moment, gently interjected, "Ellie, it's important that you answer. You're in a safe space now. Please, don't hold back." David's question hung in the air, and Ellie's heart ached. She looked at him, her eyes filled with remorse, and took a deep breath before speaking. "David, I love you, and I would never intentionally hurt you," she began, her voice trembling. "But if you hadn't stopped me with that note, I would have made the worst mistake of my life. I would have slept with him. But you saved me, and for that, I am eternally grateful. Baby, we need to stay together." David turned to the doctor, his tears still flowing. "Doctor, this is why I can't stay married. You see, she had serious intentions of sleeping with him. The actual act doesn't matter. Intention is all that matters in my mind. If she thought about it once, I know she would do it again under the right circumstances. And I can't live with that hanging over my head for the rest of our years together. I'd always wonder if she still wanted him or if she was planning another session. No, she ended it when she got on that plane, knowing all along what she was going to do." David's voice grew steadier, but the pain in his words was undeniable. "I can't do it. I can't live in a marriage where I'll always wonder if she'll cheat again. That's not the life I want." David followed through with the counseling sessions, completing everything that was required of him. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. But even then, Ellie didn't give up. She called him constantly, begging him to stop the divorce, to give their marriage another chance. Her father, sister, and friends all called him, pleading with him to forgive her. They insisted he was being foolish, that Ellie hadn't slept with Richard and had made a mistake. They told him he was being childish for not stepping up and forgiving her. David tried to explain his feelings to each of them, but no one seemed to understand. He was exhausted by their constant pressure, and in the end he snapped. "Go to hell," he told them all, "and don't ever speak to me again." He left town, taking contract jobs across the country, cutting all ties. Ellie's calls continued, but eventually, David had to block her number. He hoped that, in time, she would learn from her actions and remain faithful in her future relationships. Nearly a year had passed, but David hadn't forgotten about Richard. He was still working across the country, untethered to a permanent home, and as he had done before, he devised a plan for revenge. Before he left, David had set up a dial-up connection to his home internet, granting him access to Ellie's computer. He knew she often logged into her company's VPN to submit reports. He took advantage of the lack of security measures on her laptop and remotely accessed her system while she was connected to the company's network. David couldn't help but smile at the ease of it all. You have to love lazy support staff who care more about making their jobs easier than about security, he thought to himself. He quickly opened her email and crafted a message to Richard, embedding a rootkit in a link he was sure Richard would open. The email was designed to lure him in, with a simple message: "Richard, take a look at this and let me know what you think." Unable to resist, Richard clicked the link, activating the malware that swiftly infiltrated every server Richard had access to. All Richard saw was an error message, just as David had planned. The predator had taken the bait, and now David had access to the company's inner systems. David erased all traces that the email had come from Ellie, clearing the remote access logs on her laptop. When the investigations began, no evidence of the incident could be found, and the IT staff likely overlooked it among their more pressing concerns. A week later, David put his plan into motion. Using a VPN and remote servers across 8 countries, he installed programs on Richard's company's main server. Within hours, he had gained access to their most sensitive files, financial reports, HR data, engineering designs, and even nearly patented designs worth millions to the company. But David wasn't done yet. For his own satisfaction, he decided to have a little fun with Richard. Through Richard's work computer, he signed him up for adult sites, knowing it would only add fuel to the fire when the IT department inevitably discovered the unusual activity on his account. David, using Richard's credit card and banking details without his knowledge, accessed deep web platforms. He registered Richard's information and created a program to divert messages from these sites into a hidden file that only David could access. In this secret cache, David downloaded dozens of disturbing images and videos, along with confidential company charts and engineering documents. Over the next month, David launched his plan, starting with a covert operation using Richard's company email. David sent the sensitive documents to competitors and inquired about payment releases to Richard's account. He meticulously deleted the sent emails, thinking he had erased all traces. Like many newcomers, Richard believed that deleting files and emails would cover his tracks. However, a simple investigation would reveal everything from his computer. To make matters worse, David began sending the illicit photos to cyber tip lines monitored by the FBI. Within a week, over 100 incriminating images were being flagged. At the same time, David orchestrated another part of his plan. He paid an employee to plant a USB drive containing child images at Richard's apartment. Within 2 days, the device was planted, ensuring Richard would face the consequences. Throughout this process, David was careful, using VPNs, remote servers, and his cybersecurity knowledge to leave no trace of his involvement. 10 days later, during a meeting with the company president, 6 FBI agents stormed Richard's office. The scene was surreal as agents burst in, guns drawn, shouting, "FBI!" The entire office froze in fear, watching in shock. "We have a warrant for the arrest of Richard Jones and full access to your company servers. We're aware of federal crimes, and you'll take us to your IT department immediately," one of the agents said, his voice filled with authority. The president, annoyed, led the agents to the IT department, and despite his objections, the FBI seized the company's servers and all data, effectively shutting the company down. As news spread, competitors seized the opportunity, reaching out to the company's clients. Richard's actions, with David's help, brought the company to its knees. He was fired and sued. Richard's federal case became a national sensation. The company he worked for faced a grave crisis that might lead to its collapse. The scandal shattered the company's reputation and turned Richard into a national disgrace. He was convicted on 200 counts of possessing child images, wire fraud, corporate espionage, federal theft, and extortion. His sentence: a minimum of 25 years in prison, with 20 years for good behavior. His wife divorced him and his children severed all ties. He lost everything, all because he tried to deceive the wrong person. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.